I know from my Twitter feed that many of you have wondered why I have been off the air for a little while. Well, I have been dealing with a little bit of a health scare. On December 20th, I began to feel chest pains, and they waxed and waned over a period of 10 days. I wasn't quite sure what to make of it, but as they continued to get worse, I started to think something was actually wrong. It was December 30th when I finally went to an urgent care and was told I had reflux. I didn't really buy it, but I was relieved it wasn't my heart. My body, though, was pretty certain not to believe the reflux. The next day, on December 30th, I woke up with severe pains both in my chest and in my left shoulder, and it was like a tightening in my chest. When I took deep breaths, that got worse when I was laying flat. I knew enough at that moment to understand that it could mean, could is the key word here, that I was having a heart attack, especially because it was happening in the left part of my shoulder. I want to remind you, I run 7 miles 3 to 4 times a week, or I did. I do yoga. I don't eat meat. I don't smoke. I drink occasionally. Not right now, though, because my doctor tells me I can't. Aside from probably not getting enough sleep and working too much, I'm a pretty healthy person. But on that day, I was anything but. My husband drove me to the emergency room, and from there, the nightmare that has been my January began. I was diagnosed with pericarditis, inflammation of the lining of my heart, brought on by a virus, a literal common cold. I also had fluid around my heart that had to be drained or else it could hinder the beating of my heart. I was hospitalized for 4 nights and transferred from a local hospital to NYU Langone here in New York City. On January 4th, I was finally discharged after doctors drained the fluid around my heart, and I bounced out of the hospital. I couldn't get out of there fast enough with the hopes I was on the mend. But that was not the end. 3 days later, I was readmitted when I felt a flutter in my heart, like a butterfly. It was inside my chest. They determined I had developed myocarditis, inflammation of the actual heart now, the heart muscle. I remember being shepherded through the emergency room and wondering, is this it? It wasn't, thank God. Instead, I spent 5 more days in the hospital where they ran a battery of tests, adjusted my meds, and made sure nothing else was fueling what was happening. And in fact, in the end, it was still just the cold that was doing all of this, that had caused all of this inflammation in and around my heart. Since then, this thing has continued to wax and wane. And the hope is I'm on the mend and on the other side now, but will be on medication for some time to come. It's not the most fun, but alas, I am getting older, and I need to admit that. One man who has helped me through all of it and shepherded me through my ups and downs and my emotions and my family's as well is my cardiologist, Dr. Greg Katz, and he joins me now because supposedly this happens, and it seems to be happening a lot these days. Yeah. It's great to see you outside the hospital, by the way.
So nice to not have an EKG in front of me to be nervous about how it's going to look.
Exactly, and me not crying in front of you.
Exactly.
What happened? Everybody asks me, how does a cold go to your heart?
Yeah, so it's not so much the cold itself that's going to your heart, it's the way your body's responding to the cold. And your immune system, for most of us, just takes a couple of days to clear the virus, and we have the standard runny nose, sore throat, that kind of stuff, and it's self-limited, and it goes away. But for a small proportion of people, they get an overactive immune response, and they can have inflammation in lots of different areas. And inflammation of the sac around the heart, pericarditis, like you first were dealing with, is an unfortunate thing that we see sometimes. We've been seeing it a little bit more this year than other years, but it's not unheard of. It's rare, but it's not the rarest.
Are there some people that are more likely to develop a situation like this than others?
Yeah. I wish I knew the answer to that.
Yeah.
But
you know the answer to so much.
I know the answer to a lot, but not this one. And anybody tells you that's either misleading them or misleading themselves. But truthfully, there's some conditions like lupus or like other autoimmune conditions where people can get this related to that disease.
Yeah.
But the overactive immune response to a virus is very unpredictable, and it happened to you like it happened to anybody.
Yeah. I mean, the lucky thing was, while I was in the hospital, and I was so lucky to have Dr. Katz on board with me because he literally scanned every part of my body. So while I was dealing with this inflammation, we also tried to figure out if anything else was going on, and thank God nothing else was. Yeah. Going on. But you talk about how you've seen more of this kind of anecdotally. I know there's not a lot of scientific data to back that up, but especially kind of post-COVID, right? Post-lockdown. We're in a different era of diseases and how our bodies are responding, right?
Yeah, I mean, nobody knows exactly why this is and whether this is a standard blip or whether my anecdotal experience is a little bit skewed, but it could be the season is a little bit more virus heavy than usual. Maybe our immune systems are a little bit different than they were because we've been masking and social distancing for a couple of years. I certainly don't know, and I don't think that anybody really knows, but it's definitely the kind of thing that you want to be aware of what the symptoms are so that you can seek medical attention if you really need it.
So let's talk about that, because I mean, I dealt with this thing for 10 days up until I actually went and sought out medical care, who then told me it was reflux. Won't name names who said that. What are the symptoms? What should people look out for, right? Because you could get, bronchitis, you could have some pain in your chest, and it could really just be something that's in and out. Yeah. And then there are things that are more serious, like what I had. So what are symptoms that you should be looking out for in a situation like this?
So the classic symptoms of pericarditis are chest pain that's worse when you're lying down and better when you're sitting up. It can be worse when you're taking a deep breath in. But the thing that you've been telling me about is this feeling like something is off with my body, and fevers, chills, kind of like non-specific symptoms. The feeling that something is wrong is the kind of time when you should be thinking, I should get this checked out. And listening to your body and paying attention to what it's telling you is really, really important, because we've all had a cold and we've all recovered from it. And sometimes if that recovery is a little bit different, it's not a bad idea to just make sure that you're being checked out.
Are there ways, and you probably don't necessarily have a straight linear answer to this, that people can protect themselves from developing a situation like this?
I wish that there were.
Or is it completely kind of not avoidable?
It seems to be what doctors call idiopathic, which means nobody has any idea.
Yeah.
If there was a way of preventing it, we would be shouting it from the rooftops, but there really isn't. And so it's the same common precautions you would take with anything. Wash your hands, don't touch your face, stay home when you're sick, the usual stuff.
How was I as a patient?
Like amazing, amazing to see somebody who would do the research on their own and ask really smart questions, but then ultimately not be persuaded by something that they read on Google that I disagreed with, and willing to sort of take my second guessing of myself and talk through the different treatment options in a really thoughtful, nuanced way. And so, a pleasure to work with.
I hope that everybody has the opportunity to have a doctor like Dr. Katz, who asked me in the lowest of my low moments, said to me, "How scared are you?" And then said to me, "Put all your nerves in a box, because we're on this for you and we're taking care of it." And that allowed me to finish Netflix. And I told him that today when he came on television. I said, "How scared are you? Put it all in a box. I'll take care of you on set." Thank you, Dr. Katz. Appreciate it so much for all the care that you've given me and will continue to give me over the next couple of months.
I'm just really glad you're feeling good enough to be on the show.
Thanks. And I'll get a checkup after I get out of here. So what do I take away from all of this, right? My life lessons. Take nothing for granted. You may be doing everything in life right, as I felt like I was, and a cold, a virus can become so much more through no fault of your own. The best advocate you have in your life is yourself, as Dr. Katz just said. Listen to your body. The only person, look at all these amazing pictures of me in the hospital, wow. The only person who knows how you feel or what you are feeling or when you need help is you. Do not let the expectations of your family or your work ever get in your way. They're all going to be waiting there for you and would rather wait for you to come back than never come back at all. Listen to your body, make good choices. Don't let experiences that change you or challenge you fall by the wayside, and resume life as is. Let it be a teaching